Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome to the channel. I'm super excited because today I am here with my friend Jack Armbrust. Jack's been working with me for a really long time. He helps with so much behind the scenes. And today he's actually going to be in a video, and we're going to be having a good time. Apparently you've prepared some kind of surprise for me, Jack.
Yes, I have dug up some old recordings of Noah's from when he was very small. So I want him to take a listen back to these. It might have been a while since he's seen them. I don't know, I thought it would be fun just to like see him react to some of his old playing and see if he would do anything differently with all
I hope so.
that he's learned and how much he's grown since then. So let's get into the first one.
Cool.
This one is
Here we go, I guess.
From 2002. So I don't know if you
recognize
remember
it.
how young you were then.
I think I must have been maybe around 11 years old.
Okay, awesome.
Probably around that. So this would have been when I first started playing jazz, maybe like a year after I first started playing jazz.
Okay.
And I would have been studying with my teacher, Rick Montalbano, one of the most amazing teachers, I think, on the planet. Yeah, so I don't really remember what this sounds like, but I'm super excited to watch this.
Okay, let's give it a go.
My buddy Nick Fernand, trumpet, also probably 11.
You know who's playing drums?
Yeah, so on drums, it's a great local Syracuse musician, a guy named Larry Luttinger, and on bass, a guy named Daryl Pugh, similar Syracuse legend. Yeah, see, Nick was more melodic than me back then, and he still is now.
Do you remember practicing on drums?
Honestly, yeah, actually, I do. So what I literally did to learn this tune was whenever I would log into AOL Instant Messenger, I would actually play Donna Lee and see how it went there, which is really, really funny because I didn't really like practice it a ton without doing that.
Solo time.
That was like my one lick that it's like, I want to play fast, so I just play always like the same way. That's Rick. That's Rick right there.
It. Wow.
And I didn't know what to do when no one jumped in. Maybe I was in the wrong part of the form.
you just took it around again.
Yeah, maybe
That's
I just
so
wanted
great.
people to clap twice.
Right.
Yeah, let's maybe pause here. I don't know how much more
Perfect,
I can take.
Yeah.
So this was Jack's video idea. So glad you came up with this. This is great. This is really fun. I can't remember when I uploaded these videos, but I'm really...
like
11 years ago. Okay,
yeah.
Cool.
God, that's crazy.
Yeah, I think it's really, really interesting because I can see, you know, for what it's worth to you and anyone watching, I can kind of see that what I'm doing back there and remembering how I thought, it was like I would hear my idols play, and rather than being like able to simply say, you know, I can't play at that speed right now, I don't really hear what I'm doing, I just wanted to emulate them like immediately. So I just had like my one little lick that I could play really fast. It was like some kind of a scale running situation.
Yeah.
And so I would just be trying to emulate them. And then I think there were some like little, you know, more original melodic ideas in there.
I heard some.
But you know, what was amazing was like this community of musicians was so nurturing. And so we were able to actually kind of have this moment at this jam session to prepare for. And so Nick and I really, really like inspired each other a lot back in those days. Sometimes we hated each other, actually. It's pretty funny. We're still, you know, best friends today. And yeah, I legitimately remember learning Donna Lee just by practicing it for like the 2 minutes it would take every time I logged into AOL Instant Messenger.
That's crazy.
And that's all I did. Eventually I got it. And I think if we were going to have like an actual good lesson in here for everybody, I would say, you know, that was an example of something I learned through repetition as opposed to focused practice. So I was like young.
Yeah.
I don't think at this point I was like, I'm going to sit down and practice for 4 hours. Like, no way. But I was like, I love to play in little 10-minute bursts.
Yeah.
And so by doing Donna Lee in those little bursts, like probably like 5 times a night after school, even though I only practiced it for 2 minutes, that was enough, so much repetition each time I would get a little bit further in the tune. And I probably learned it potentially, I can't guarantee this, but maybe faster than if my 11-year-old self had been like, I'm going to practice for an hour now.
Right.
You know?
Wow, what a fun trip down memory lane for you.
Yeah, seriously. I love that you found this.
Yeah, that's so great. Okay, let's move on to something maybe, I don't know, a little bit later. Amazing. Okay, so here's another one from 2008, you said you were...
Okay, so 2008, that's really fun. So I would have been in my junior year of high school at this point. At this point, I was like obsessively on the high school jazz competition circuit, which was like a big thing back then. Yeah, so this group was a really fun group that we put together specifically for this festival, which, by the way, the drummer in the first video, Larry Luttinger, this is the festival that he would put on in Syracuse. And so obviously Nick is still featured in this video. My friend Chad on sax, who's like probably one of the single best sax players in the entire world now. On drums, Jimmy McBride, super prevalent on the jazz scene, especially in New York right now as well, but tours all over the world, plays with Terrence Blanchard. Greg Chaplin, phenomenal musician, phenomenal bassist. So this was a really fun group to play with. And I can say that in 2008, I was really lucky because despite all the competition that I was absorbed in, my teacher Rick always pulled me out of it. He would constantly see my thought processes, and as soon as they got dark, and as soon as the competition became something that made me feel bad rather than motivated, he was an amazing force of nature in my life to constantly pull me back and be like, Noah, why are you doing this? Why are you practicing? Why would you say that negative thing about someone? Why would you? He just always kept me in check and like really taught me how meaningful it was to not let competition become a dark force in your life that influenced how you treat people. And I think that because of that, people like Rick and also my other teacher, Joe Colombo, who was another one of my high school teachers, people like that and the incredibly nurturing scene in Syracuse, New York, they're probably a big reason that I still have all these friends. Like these people are still just amazing friends in my life because there were moments that I distinctly remember, saying things to Rick that were coming from a dark place. I gotta get Rick on the channel at some point. I've been talking to him about it, so I want everybody to meet him.
That'd be incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's check this one out.
I'll say.
Yeah,
so
please.
this is a tune I wrote.
Back
amazing.
Then. Okay, I was gonna say, what is this?
It's called The Jungle. I do so much education these days. I often don't showcase my kind of composition and playing as much as I could, and I do plan to kind of change that. This was one of my kind of like probably the compositions I am most proud of from this time, even though I would obviously write a lot differently now. But
would you still play it like nowadays?
I almost still would. I feel like maybe now if I heard it, I might make some updates more through composed sections. But it's even now it's something that I'm still proud of. But I definitely look back on myself from these years and I'm like, hey, I appreciate the work that old Noah did, or young Noah, really is what I should say. Even though part of me is embarrassed, at the same time, I'm kind of like, whatever. It's like it's fun to look back and see how you and the people around you develop.
Okay, I love it. Let's hear what this one's all about. Were you like band leading?
Sort of. Kind of? Yeah. I think we were a very even-minded group.
It was a little collaborative.
Very collaborative. For my song, I was band leading. Nick had his own songs. Chad had his own songs. So everyone kind of took. It's very interesting to see how your creativity changes over time. I think everyone watching probably understands this too, but I think that our compositional mind and our creative mind definitely goes through phases. Not only influenced by what else we're listening to, but also even just influenced by kind of our general emotional personality in a way. And I think I've never changed in my loving music as like this kind of escapist thing. So I love all sorts of music, but I really have always been connected to like fantasy and music that kind of takes you into a different world altogether, as opposed to music that's commenting on this world. And this song is definitely a huge reflection of that. I think for me.
I feel like I can hear that.
The distorted.
I love the keyboard change. Is this like the original Nord?
The original, yeah.
The stage.
I
Yeah,
think
just
it
the
is.
original Nord stage. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
it was a stage compact actually.
Okay, gotcha.
It had like organ style keys.
Whoa.
Oh, that's funny.
I love the zoom there. That's great.
Zoom in onto my red
Do you
shirt,
know-
red tie situation.
Yeah, right. Do you remember who was filming this?
Great question.
Maybe.
Wouldn't be surprised if it was my little brother, Sam, who actually
Sweet.
still helps with a lot of the video stuff for the YouTube channel. Actually, does a lot of editing. He's kind of the brains behind a lot of the visuals. Cool. Yeah, maybe we can pause it there.
I love that. That's so great. Do you remember what the changes to that tune are or no?
Yeah. Let's see. I
everybody
remember
wants
it's an
to play
F.
it
Yeah.
On their own at home.
So. I don't remember exactly what the chords I played were. Yeah, it might have been that like D flat major, E flat major, then same triad but as a B flat minor 7. Don't remember what I did here. Maybe like a C altered or something. Then the next part, like the solo section, was like. So it was in
fun.
7.
I love that.
Yeah, so we kind of had that vamp.
I love that.
And that's something like I love doing. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I do personally get tired of like, we play a standard, everyone plays the exact same solo section. And obviously there's so much magic that can happen in that. Don't get me wrong. You know, that's why it's been the way it is for years and years and years. But I do always love just like a predetermined change in how one soloist solos to the next solos just in the composition itself. You know, I look back and I'm like, I'm glad that I kind of changed the vibe there. And it makes it feel like there's a development to like the story. And I know my brain, I don't remember exactly what I was visualizing, but even now, you know, when I write, it's a very visual thing. It's very like story based. And so I'm sure like when I said the jungle, I didn't mean like any specific jungle in our world, you know. But I will say really fast, a couple funny things I noticed that immediately I recognized, like in terms of my own improvisation. One of them was I did this kind of like diatonic thing where I think it was probably like something like that. Some kind of this like very intervallic thing, and that was something that I remember Chad and I had talked a lot about back then, like, oh, it'd be really cool if we did these longer intervallic lines. And it is kind of cool, actually.
Yeah,
it is kind of
so
cool. You know, I think guys like Taylor Eichste do it pretty well, but like, you know, Jeff Keyser does some really cool stuff like that. But yeah, so, you know, I was kind of doing this pattern. You know, it's kind of like the ascending, descending. I'm not doing the exact ones I did there, but obviously here I'm doing like an F Dorian sound. Yes, you can come with some really cool improvised lines, some like really modern ways of looking at things. And even some of this stuff is stuff that I've developed more into my educational materials. Like for example, in my Jazz Piano Evolutions course, shout out to Jazz Piano Evolutions, shameless plug. But for real, it is actually opening up very soon, within the next couple weeks, if not already open when we release this video. So that course has a lot of my most unique and modern approaches to jazz improvisation. So things like intervallic improv approaches, but much bigger in the course are actually even like two-hand counterpoint stuff. Being able to actually improvise both hands at once in that kind of Brad Meldau / Bach two-hand counterpoint style. I have a whole sequence of exercises in a very specific order that really help you actually master that. And also the art of playing out and really hearing out. So I have a whole methodology for that. So if anyone's interested in this, click the link in the description and just either get signed up for the waitlist, or if the course is open by the time we release this video, get in the course. I worked so hard on it and I would love to know what you think. I think you'll get a ton out of it. Another thing I noticed I did, I think I did like, I think it was E, you know?
Oh, that's cool.
And so that right there to me is like what I now refer to as a dissonance formula. So I was doing, you know, F minor, but E major over F minor.
Were you thinking about that like when you were soloing, do you think?
I think I probably was at a point where I could kind of hear it.
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
You know, so it kind of came out somewhat naturally, but definitely something I thought about while practicing is like, oh, how does that sound? E major over F.
Sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a cool sound, and I think it's really important to resolve.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I think one other little arpeggio that I'll show everyone was kind of fun. I'm pretty sure I heard myself go. Yeah, it's kind of like, let's see. So it's actually more of that E major over F sound, really.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I feel like you could definitely hear a progression from when you were maybe 17 or 18.
That's for sure.
When you were 11. Okay, we've got something from, I guess, just a year later.
Yeah, that makes
Right?
sense, because I would have been at the Brubeck Institute.
Okay, and you went to the Brubeck Institute like when you finished high school?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
It was my
gotcha.
first year of college.
Okay.
So I guess this could be a year and a half to 2 years
Got you. Okay.
difference, because that last one was junior year of high school.
Okay, nice.
Somewhere in the realm of a year and a half to 2 years
got
later,
it.
maybe.
Cool.
But yeah,
Nice.
I think, you know, in a way I was at prime physical
For
condition
sure,
for this one.
Okay, let's see.
Get a little Nick Fernay solo after.
Do you know what tune you guys were?
Yeah, it sounds like an F blues. I'm not
Okay.
sure exactly which one it was. I'm literally taking straight from Oscar Peterson's CJ Blues solo. And I just gave Zach a little look there like, haha, look how funny I am. And he probably like was just like, I don't care. Interesting.
Sweet. Sweet.
Cool.
How do you feel like, would you approach that differently now if you're like playing and sitting in with the same people, that solo?
Great question. You know, it's hard to answer that because I think that, you know, every solo you approach differently in the moment for different reasons. Like that's the nature of jazz, right? It's very much on the spot. I will say, I feel like listening back, I maybe wasn't listening as well as I could.
Sure.
Like it feels like a very like self-indulgent solo. And I think that I was very much in a mental place back then that was kind of like, I'm an athlete on the field and I'm just here to score goals. So you know what I mean? As opposed to, I'm here to like make some incredible team plays and passes.
Right.
I'm not giving myself enough credit in some ways. Like it's not like I was just this super selfish musician, but I do think I remember my mentality at Brubeck because I remember what happened directly after.
Okay.
The whole beginning of the program, I was like very much in that kind of competitive athlete kind of mindset. And I think the Brubeck Institute is probably when I learned like the most I've ever learned in like a condensed period of time. Just like that year was amazing. And it's literally like what I model the mentorship program off of.
Gotcha.
You know, like working really in depth with one person at a time. Link, of course, in the description if you want to check that out. Part of what happened was kind of at the very end of the program, Nick and I especially, we started having these talks and we went through kind of, it was the beginning of our getting dark on jazz phase. And where it was coming from emotionally was that we realized that what was kind of driving us in many situations was this strange competitive spirit. And I think we were just having the realization that we didn't really want that to be where the music was coming from for us anymore. And so we had to kind of divorce ourselves from jazz in some ways, but just our entire way of looking at what makes a good solo, like how impressive is what we're playing. And we really had to like step away from that for a while and almost like reinvent ourselves and figure out where's just the beauty here. What, and you know, an experience we would sometimes have was like an audience member coming up to us after a gig and being like, that was very interesting, you know? And I was like, that's not really what I want to hear. Like, people didn't seem moved sometimes. They seemed very just like, cool, I feel smart because I listened to this, you know? And I was like, I don't want that. I want someone to come up and be like, wow, like, you made me cry. Or like, even, I'm super into someone being like, I fell asleep. Because I'm like, if my music was soothing enough that you fell asleep, I think that's a huge compliment as well. Yeah, so, you know, it was kind of it was the beginning of a short-term end. But then years later now I'm sitting here and I love jazz even more because it's kind of come full circle, and I realize, you know, jazz is like the ultimate compositional expression in a lot of ways, and jazz is so many things. Jazz is not just specifically playing a bunch of impressive lines over a fast swing beat. So jazz is so many things, and I think that's something it took me some time to realize.
Yeah.
And in this moment, I don't know if I had realized that. I think I was thinking, playing my cool licks is the best jazz. But for anyone who wants to learn about the cool licks, I did notice one thing I was doing,
please.
Which was I was kind of taking this like very triadic approach. So I was doing like, and then probably like, something like that. So almost taking from like classical music, F triad to B flat triad in second inversion, G to C, A to D, and just kind of moving these around. I don't remember the exact pattern I did, but you know, moving around these basic triads. It's funny because in jazz, it feels like such a new thing because like you almost never hear people do that. Like I'm just gonna play a triad. Like no, we're all about our 13s, you know. So that's one kind of fun thing that I did in that solo that I feel like I did decently well. It was kind of fun to hear.
No, I think it's like it's just cool to see like you play with a lot of the same people at 3 different points in your life, and just like the technical skill is definitely there in all 3 examples. Yeah, I feel like you, as well as like all your friends who are playing, you were growing like your levels of taste as well.
So I'm gonna turn it around for a second. I'm gonna ask you a question.
Okay.
Was there anything interesting that you observed, or anything that you feel like would benefit people to think about these things? I mean, I know I've been kind of pontificating here, but
one thing I noticed, and I think maybe I noticed this because it was something that like when I was more heavily studying like jazz in this kind of way, it was like a weakness of mine. I don't know, I feel like I wasn't sure how to practice it the correct way, but your left hand, like your comping patterns and everything, it always felt like very realized and like super fluent. I don't know if you remember specifically spending a lot of time practicing that skill, or if that's just something that came with the many hours that you were putting in.
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I will say like a very specific thing that anyone watching this could do to improve that ability is, I would say turn on a metronome and try to do increasingly difficult rhythms in your left hand while maintaining something very steady in your right hand. Okay. So to start off, it could just be like, and so just doing that, and then you take it one step further, and you can take it like little steps. Next, make just like kind of more scalar approach. Sure. You're not thinking hard about the right hand, but you're going to move through the actual kind of continuous chord scale. So I'm going to increasingly make the right hand more difficult. And right now, because we're in the context of this lesson, I'm doing kind of random rhythms in the left hand. But I might pick just one rhythm that's like really tricky for me, and just keep that going in the left hand, like... all on syncopated beats, right? Just all syncopations. And so like progressively getting better and better at just that one specific rhythm. And each time you do that, and you do something that's like a challenge to your right hand facility, what happens is over time your left hand becomes the one you don't have to think about. Yeah. Right? And you're like, oh, now I'm to the point where I can like fully concentrate on improvisation. You know, and it just becomes kind of like second nature for your left hand to do that rhythm.
Totally.
So that's what I would recommend.
That makes a ton of sense. I feel like that feeling of freedom of just like being able to run with your right hand and not like worry about the left hand is like opens so many things up.
Yeah,
'cause
absolutely.
I feel like when you're not comfortable with the left hand thing, it's just you don't feel like you can get like anything out. You know?
Yeah, I do know because I felt that way for a long time.
Yeah, right. That's super helpful. Sure takes a lot of time.
Yeah, consistency,
Yeah.
repetition. Like I think repetition of practice of something like this is like one of the single most important things you can do.
Yeah.
Just sticking with it and doing a little bit every day.
That.
Well, cool. Thank
Yeah.
you so much for digging these up. I hope others had a fun time
Yeah.
and also learned some things and in going through this experience with us too.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for doing this.
you.
Thanks so much to everyone for watching. I hope you had a great time. We've had a really fun time. Thanks for watching. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any more very fun and hopefully entertaining videos like this one. And yeah, if you could hit the like button, that really, really helps out myself and the channel. It helps me continue to put out great content for you all. All right, thank you so much for watching and see you next time.